Hi everybody, Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back with Day of Honor, book number 3, which was Star Trek Voyager, Her Klingon Soul, by Michael Jan Friedman. Let's just jump right into the back cover here. Ashamed of her Klingon heritage, B'Elanna Torres regards the Day of Honor as an unwelcome reminder of all she has struggled to repress. But when she and Harry Kim are captured by alien slavers, Torres needs all of her strength and cunning to survive, and her honor as well. So, Her Klingon Soul. Uh, this book was interesting. So far, my least favorite of the Day of Honor books, and I think mainly because it really did not have a lot of the Day of Honor in it. Kind of the theme that she was going on was that on every Day of Honor every year she had such terrible, terrible luck, and it continued on this Day of Honor here. So you have a kind of an early season Voyager adventure here. They are out looking for food. As everyone remembers, their replicators, the power was running low. They had to scavenge for food, and that's what they were doing. And down on one of these planets, B'Elanna and Harry Kim are looking for food, and they found a cave which is just perfectly packed with this delicious looking food. So they go in there and check it out, and what do you know? It's a trap. A Kazon trap. So B'Elanna and Harry are kidnapped by the Kazons, who plan to convince them through some means to give them their transporter technology. The plan goes off without a hitch because they had been planning it apparently for some time ever since the Voyager left their system. This is actually the Kazon Ogla, and they were the ones that had such trouble with Voyager. So they had been working this big plan, knowing Voyager was going around looking for food. They set this trap planet, and then they even set these two different ships up so that they could make it seem as if they'd taken them in this ship, in this heavy cruiser, and blasted off in one direction, when in reality they'd taken them in another shuttle in a completely different direction. So that's the start of the story here. At the beginning, though, they do kind of give you a little bit of a preview, maybe, of what's to come with Tom and Harry Kim in the holodeck practicing Harry Kim's shuttlecraft skills. So Tom is running him through this scenario where he's got to dodge and duck and dip and dive through all these different asteroids, and Harry, so far, has not been able to complete kind of like the final sequence of squeezing in between these two giant asteroids. So maybe a bit of foreshadowing there for the book. We'll see. So what you have here mostly is the Harry Kim and B'Elanna Torres book. Mainly featuring her, of course, because it's supposed to be about the Day of Honor. But it really isn't very much. It's mostly... well, let's get into it and see. On their way to transport B'Elanna and Kim to the leader of the Kazon Ogla so they could be sufficiently tortured and information extracted, the Kazon are intercepted by this group of miners that go around and get slaves, and they're called the Nograth. And they set upon the vessel and pretty easily take it down and take everyone alive and capture them and bring them to their mining facility where they have to mine this stuff. They have to mine this radioactive ore, which is why they have to keep getting new slave miners to bring in, because you can only mine this stuff for so long before you just drop dead. So far, this is B'Elanna's bad luck Day of Honor. It's not been working out very well for her. Back on the ship at this point, Janeway and Tuvok and crew have kind of figured out the ruse, turned around, and headed back to the planet, and are trying to find an ion trail, some way to track down which way they actually went. Tuvok's successful, of course, and the author kind of highlights Tuvok's general ability to be awesome, which I like, and kind of his ability to anticipate Janeway as well, which I think they did really well. And this is where they introduced the kind of the B story of it, where in search of Harry and B'Elanna, they come across another wrecked vessel, a vessel that's basically getting ready to explode, and they're able to save one person who's badly radiation damaged, but they are able to bring her back to life, and her name is Pakria Ertinia, and she is an Emanak. So they kind of throw this little side story in there, but it kind of brings the whole general focus of like this sector of space, I guess, into like you kind of see what's going on. It gives you a little bit more information about it. So she explains that she was attacked by the, I think by the Nograth as well, but she kind of gives some history on the sector that it was once ruled by this species called the Zendikon, who were like terrible. They experimented on other species. They did, horrible things to develop viruses and things like that. And they did that to her species as well. Eventually, the other species rose up and overcome and brought down the Zendikon. And now they kind of, all the other species in the quadrant were kind of living off of their technology there. The Nograth, the Emanak, and others to be included, I suppose. So she is rescued and then is brought back to life, cured of her radiation, and then she's given. The doctor and Kess find out that she has a lethal disease, and she has something like a week or so to live. The doctor can cure her, but she refuses because the cure was developed by the Zendikon, by them experimenting on her own people. So she doesn't want to gain from something that came from that. So that's the B story. So it's kind of weird, but it's interesting. But I think I would have liked maybe more focus on the slave mining and stuff. But I guess it was pretty good altogether. So back to B'Elanna and Kim. They've arrived there at the slave or the ore processing plant, and of course, when you get into a situation like this, you're going to have like your initial kind of prison fights, and that's what happens. So they witness a couple of fights between these Nograth, who kind of just beat each other to pulp. And then one of the other prisoners, it might have been one of the ones who thinks that they kind of were in with the Kazon since they were brought in with them, he starts some trouble, and then a couple of them jump them. And then seeing this uneven fight, this one Nograth, whose name is Toga, he jumps in and evens the odds. And like, I guess, and the author here was showing kind of like, talking like the Nograth honor. So like, he's not going to let this unfair fight happen. So he jumps in and kind of evens the odds. I think B'Elanna kind of helps him as well too at some point. So they become like little, slave buddies, and they're together now, and they decide to. Well, they don't decide, but they're kind of forced into doing an escape attempt. One of the guards takes a liking to B'Elanna, tries to get her off somewhere, take advantage of her. She does not take kindly to that, takes him down, picks up his rifle, and basically starts the first slave revolt there on the ore processing plant. It goes pretty good for a minute until the guards break out their like powerful shields. They take him down. They don't kill him because they need him to mine the ore. So they take him down and send him back to work mining the ore. So the first revolt doesn't go well, but it kind of builds this sense of like camaraderie between Tolga and B'Elanna, and they basically start planning the second revolt. So back on the ship, things get a little weird at this point with the Pakria story, but Kess jumps in and wants to find a way to get her to accept the cure. Everybody else is kind of like, we have to let her do her own thing. We can't try to force our values on her. But she's trying to find a way to get her to accept the cure because of her, I guess, her outlook on life, since she has such a short time to live. What she does, strangely enough, is she does a holodeck program where she goes back to where she was kind of a slave for the Kazon and getting beat and whipped by them, and just goes through that for a period of time, just to give herself the the mindset, I guess, maybe of how it would feel to hate someone as badly as Pacria does. I don't know. The whole scene didn't land well for me, and it seemed kind of weird. But let's move on. Pacria thinks that wants to help out since she was helped out, and is able to give Voyager some information about the sector, and then kind of examine Voyager's information and point out something that they didn't know, which was that there was a certain radioactive ore present in the debris. So with that information, they're able to track down the asteroid belt where this place might be located, and they set out at a high warp factor, of course. So Voyager on the way in. Inside the prison, you've got B'Elanna, Tolga, and Kim planning their second escape attempt, and it goes off just perfectly well. A perfect cliched prison escape attempt. You get two people over here fighting, the guards come over and get distracted, and when the guards are distracted, you come and you whack them and you get out of there. And that's what they do, and it works out perfectly fine. They expect better success this time because Tolga knows where the control operating room is, where they can shut down all of the guards' guns and kind of even the odds. But at that point it would be uneven since there's more of them than there are guards. So they have this very nice little scene here, I guess. It was pretty well done where they bust out and they're battling through the hallways. A lot of guards going down, a lot more prisoners going down, but they're able to, thanks to mainly B'Elanna and her skill and her honor, are able to kind of overcome, make it to the control room, and just when things look like maybe the tide will turn the other way with the guards getting their shields advantage going, everything gets shut down. The prisoners rush, they take down the guards, they kind of clear out the remaining ones there. They've got guns. They turn the guns back on at that point, and then they realize that there are these 6 ships coming in, these transport ships, probably bringing ore in to be processed. But now they realize they have more things that they have to do, so they decide they have to attack these ships. So they kind of split up into 2 parties and go to attack these first 2 docking ships. And it's B'Elanna, Kim, and a couple of the Noggraths on one, and then Tolga's leading a whole other party over on the other one. So they wait by the doors for the doors to open, and they rush in and just kind of handily take them down and are able to take the ships. As soon as they take the ships and get out, however, the other 4 ships realize what happened and are able to, or at that point, start pursuing them. So now you have Harry Kim in the pilot's seat, in an asteroid belt for real this time. So yeah, there's your foreshadowing. It's all coming back, basically, the holodeck program. So as the scene's going on, he's got in his ear, he's got Tom Paris, kind of his memory in his mind from all the training going on, and he's successfully dipping and diving and weaving through all these asteroids, and they're able to make it fairly far. And they see they've got 3 ships on their tail right now, I think, and they're coming to the end of the asteroid field, and there's only one way to go, and wouldn't you know it, 2 large asteroids are coming together, and the only thing Harry can do is go in and turn and go right through the middle. So does he do it? Well, of course he does. I mean, it wouldn't be very fun if they just crashed into the asteroid there, would it? So Harry's able to pull off the maneuver he couldn't do on the holodeck successfully. They make it through. The pursuing ships, I think, try, and they impact the asteroid and they're blown up. They make it through and they're into open space. And what do they see but this giant Noggrath cruiser now coming in, guns blazing, ready to go. So now Harry engages his, evasive maneuvers, flying around, trying to get around. And then they see Tolga's ship streak out of the asteroid field, and he's there too, and he's been able to escape his pursuer. So B'Elanna, I guess, and Tolga both had the same idea at the same time, and B'Elanna radios him and he's like, looks like we had the same idea, and she's like, what? No. And then he jams on his engines and does a suicide run into the cruiser. And this guy was I didn't explain earlier, but Tolga was like a rebel against the Noggrath, kind of, and that's why he was put there. So he has some knowledge of these ships, and with that knowledge, he's able to then basically know exactly where to hit. So he rams this ship in a suicide mission directly into the cruiser, and it disables it, allowing Harry, B'Elanna, and the others to successfully escape. At that time, Voyager is right there and is able to beam them all up. And they're all happy and safe back in the transporter room. And B'Elanna's telling the story about how she was able to see her brave friend die. And then she hears from the hallway, "Who died?" And then Tolga comes walking into the room with his buddies, and he didn't die. It turned out that Tuvok, on point as always, had his transporter lock on and was able to beam that out at the very last moment. So, happy ending for everyone. Voyager and crew take Tolga and all the remaining prisoners and deposit them on a safe planet where they can begin to plan more of their rebellion movement against the evil Nagrath government. At the end, Pakria decides to take the medicine because they have a small scene where Kes takes her to a holodeck and introduces her to the doctor that basically did all the horrible experiments. And she has a short conversation with her. In the end of the conversation, the doctor's like, "It would be the worst thing in the world if I found out that you guys were using the poison or the vaccines that we made to heal yourselves." And then she's like, when she hears that, she's like, "Oh, well, okay, I guess it's not so bad." So then she decides to take the vaccine. So again, this whole part was the weak point in the book. The whole Pakria story, it didn't need to be there. It could have easily been just more of on the mining side of it. So, final thoughts really here. Oh, good, I kept this rant not too crazy long. Not a lot of Day of Honor here. Basically, the Day of Honor was referenced as a bad day for her, but in the end of the book, she does bring it around to say, you know what? It was a good Day of Honor when someone wishes her a happy Day of Honor. You know, she's finally come around. That it's not so bad, I guess. At least this one wasn't. But I guess what I thought was that this book would be like really, really focused on the Day of Honor, you know, or this saga, I should say, since it was written entirely about the Day of Honor. But this one was good, and it did have a lot of honor in it, but not quite what I was expecting. And funnily enough, in the notes here, in the book about books, which is wonderful, the author actually says, or kind of admits, that this probably was not one of his greatest works. So, and I can see where, you know, maybe he could have made some improvements there. But all in all, it was a good book. Light action fun, a good Voyager adventure. And heck, I read this thing in basically like 2.5 nights. So, I mean, it was engaging, it kept me going, and it just could have benefited maybe from cutting out a little bit of something and adding a little bit something more. I don't know. But anyway, that is the halfway point in this series. We have Star Trek Treaties Law, Star Trek Voyager Day of Honor, which is the episode. This is the novelization of the episode. And then finally, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Honor Bound. The next one I'm excited about because from what they've been saying in the first 3 books, this will actually be the telling of how the Day of Honor came about. So that will be cool. So enjoying this so far. In January has been a very honorable month. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will be back soon to talk more Star Trek fun. But until then, kapla! Glory to the Empire and to your house. And you guys have a good night.